This Friday's Principal's Coffee. I am going to start
Bienvenidos al café del director. Este viernes
with just an
vamos a
overview, and then I have a few
con-
presentations to share with you, and
con una
then
vista
I'll
general
have time for
y
questions
tengo
at
algunas
the end. So I'll
presentaciones
go
para
ahead and start
ustedes.
sharing my screen.
Voy a
You can see,
compartir
give me a thumbs up, Miss
mi
B, if you can see the
pantalla.
screen. Perfect. All right. So a few announcements that I'll make,
Okay.
and then we'll go
Vamos a
into an
hacer
LCAP
algunos
timeline. The
anuncios
LCAP is going
y
to be
luego
starting
vamos a
on
hablar
Monday
sobre
or opening up
LCAP,
on Monday. So we'll start
que abre el
that, and
día
then also
lunes.
reviewing some iReady
Y también
data,
vamos
our
a
most recent
revisar
iReady
información
data.
sobre
And so some
iReady.
announcements, as you guys
Algunos
know, or
anuncios,
maybe you
como
don't know,
ya saben o
February
tal vez
is
no
Black
saben,
History Month, and it's
febrero
also
es
National Random
Black
Acts of
History Month
Kindness Month.
y
And so we're going
también
to be doing
National
some,
Random Acts of
Ms. B
Kindness
has a
Month.
scavenger hunt for Black History Month that we're
Vamos
going to
a
be doing, and
tener
then for
algunos
National Random
juegos
Acts of Kindness
para
Month,
esta semana para
for one of the
celebrar
weeks,
este
we're
mes.
going to be doing a kind of like a checklist for students as well.
Vamos a
Next
celebrar
week,
la bondad y vamos
on
a
Thursday,
celebrar el
Dr.
Black
Kate Kinsella
History
is
Month.
coming back. She's
También
going to be
tenemos a la
presenting
doctora
some
Kate
strategies for
Kinsella.
building
Ella va a
academic
venir
language with our
para
students. We've
ayudarnos
had
y
her
a mostrarnos
the
cómo
last
ayudar a
3
los
years,
niños que están
Vargas,
aprendiendo a hablar inglés.
Landals, and
Landos
Amy Imai
y
are
Mai y
bringing her to our
Vargas
school district,
están
and she's a
entonces,
fantastic
ellos
educator and
van a
lots of
traer a
strategies
la
to
doctora Kate Kinsella a presentar
support our students and
para
how you can support
apoyar
your
a
students at home.
nuestros
She's going to present to the teachers
estudiantes. Ella va a
as
presentar a
well,
los
and then
maestros
later
y
on she'll
también va a
present to
presentar
parents.
a los
I'm
padres.
also going to talk a little bit
También
about
vamos a hablar
volunteers,
sobre
and
voluntarios
then also after school clubs
y
that are
también vamos a
starting. And
hablar
so for
sobre
volunteers, in
los-
February, we're going to
las
be
clases que
opening
vamos a
up
tener
to
después de clase.
volunteers.
Voluntarios, vamos a
All
comenzar
volunteers
aceptando
on our campus
voluntarios
will need
en
proof of
febrero.
vaccination
Todos los
before they come
voluntarios
onto
van a tener
campus.
que
So they need
tener
to provide
prueba
proof that they are
de las
vaccinated.
vacunas de COVID.
And that's really to help make sure that our
Y
students
eso
are
es
safe.
más que nada para mantener
At
a
the end of the
nuestros
day, student
estudiantes
safety
seguros.
is our number one
Al final
priority,
del
in
día,
addition
la
to
prioridad de
instruction
nosotros es mantener a nuestros niños
and growing our
seguros.
students. There are also for regular volunteers, so students
También
or
para
parents who are
los
going to be in
voluntarios
classrooms
que van a estar
regularly,
en los
we do
salones en
require
forma regular,
fingerprinting. We want to make
también
sure that
vamos
the
a requerir
adults in the room are safe to be
huellas
around kids, and so there's a
digitales.
fingerprint
Entonces
requirement.
queremos
And then
estar
also,
seguros de
you
que
must be
tengan las
TB
huellas
tested
digitales
and provide that
y también
results.
se va a requerir
And
el
then,
examen de
just like all of our
tuberculosis.
employees wear masks and our students wear masks,
También
volunteers
todos los
must wear
voluntarios
masks
tendrán
at
que
all
usar
times while on
mascarillas
campus.
cuando estén en la escuela, igual que todos los empleados de la
The
escuela.
TB test, there's a
El
link. I'm going to
examen
share this
de
presentation a little bit
tuberculosis
later.
se las vamos
The
a mostrar un
TB
poquito
test
más
will need
tarde,
to be done with your doctor. So
pero el examen de
there's a
tuberculosis se
way to do
hace
that
con
here.
su doctor.
After school clubs, we're
Las
hoping
clases que
our
vamos a
tentative
tener
start date is
después de la
February
escuela,
14th. And we
más o menos van a
have
comenzar el
5
14 de
after
febrero.
school
Tenemos
classes that we're
5
going to be
clases que
offering
van
to
a
start with.
comenzar.
We're going to have coding for
Vamos a
4th and 5th
comenzar con
grade.
coding,
Snap
que es
circuits are going to be for 3rd through 5th
clases de
grade. We're going to be
computación.
doing
Vamos
French for
a
K2,
tener
so kindergarten
francés
through 2nd grade.
de
We're
kinder a
going to have
segundo.
fitness
Vamos a tener
class. And so
clases de
Ms. Hammer is
gimnasia
going to
de
lead students to a
tercero
bunch of
a
fitness
quinto,
activities and sports fundamentals,
deportes.
3rd through 5th grade. And then hopefully we'll do K2 in the second round. And then we have a play in a box.
También
So
vamos a tener
the
play in a
students in
box,
2nd through 5th
que
grade
es teatro,
can
que
join,
vamos a
and they will
tener
have a
de
play at the
segundo
end of
a
that.
quinto. Y al
And
final ellos
in
van
the
a
next
presentar
few
una
weeks,
obra de teatro.
maybe hopefully
También en las
March,
próximas semanas,
sometime in March,
ojalá
we'll add
en marzo,
ukulele
vamos
for
a
4th through
poder
5th.
agregar
We'll
otras
have choir for
clases,
2nd through 5th,
ukelele
art for
de
1st through
4
3rd.
a quinto
We're
grado,
looking at soccer, and I think
coro,
that could be
arte,
K5
también
or
fútbol.
various grade levels. And then we want some additional STEM
Y también
classes for
vamos a
students.
agregar
And we're looking for
clases
some
de STEM,
opportunities for
ciencia.
K as well. As you'll see, most of
Estamos
our
buscando
things are in
oportunidades
the upper
también
grades,
para
but we're
los
looking
niños de
for
kinder,
opportunities for our lower
pero
grade
estamos
students as
tratando de
well.
encontrar clases para los niños de kinder, ya que estamos ofreciendo bastantes para los niños más grandes.
Can I ask a quick question? Is
Sure.
the language like a beginner or
Yes, this would
La
be
pregunta
like an
es si la clase
introduction
de
level
francés
for
va a ser
our
para
second or kindergarten through
principiantes.
second.
La
It's going to
respuesta
be
es sí,
kind
va
of
a ser
basic
para
starting from the
principiantes.
beginning.
Va a ser lo básico.
I have another question. Do we know, is that going to be throughout the week potentially,
Esto va a
every
ser todos
afternoon,
los
or
días, todas las
is it?
tardes.
These are 1 day a week
Sí, van a
classes.
ser
So the classes
clases de
1 day a week.
una tarde a la
Most of them,
semana.
so this afternoon, you're going to get an email with
Esta
sign up
semana
information
van a
and the
mandar
actual
la
dates and times.
información en un correo
This is just a
electrónico
general
a todos
overview,
los
but it'll be
padres para
once a
que se
week.
puedan inscribir
Okay. And
y
can
ver
kids
todos
do
los
more than
detalles de
one,
todas las
or is
clases.
it all at the same time?
Los niños pueden tomar más de una clase.
Right now, we're
En este
prioritizing
momento,
kids getting at least one
estamos
because they are
tratando de que
limited.
todos los
And
niños
I
tengan una
didn't mention
clase.
this, but these are free to
Estas clases son gratis
everyone. So there's
para
no
todos los
payment
niños,
at
no
all.
hay
So
pago
Vargas is
para
providing
nada.
these as opposed to an
Vargas está
outside club where you can
proporcionando
sign up.
estas clases.
And our goal is that
Y la
we
meta
get as many
es
kids
que-
some after school enrichment. So
que todos
one
los niños
right
puedan
now.
tener,
If
ojalá,
no one is signing
una
up for the
clase,
classroom and your child wants it, they can
una
get two.
clase,
but
una de
ideally
estas clases.
one,
Entonces, si nadie se
option.
apunta a las clases,
And
por
for
supuesto va a
those
estar abierto para
who
los
go
otros
to
niños
after
también.
school care, would they still be able to do some of this?
Los
Yeah.
niños que
Yes.
van a los programas de
And
la
so
tarde
with
todavía
the Right at
pueden
School, you're talking about
entrar
Right
a
at School
estas
and
Yeah,
clases.
I
Sí.
am. Yeah.
Si
Yeah,
van
so
a
those
Right at
programs,
School
yes, they
o cualquier
can join
programa
these
de la
as well.
tarde, claro
Those
que
who have
pueden,
tutoring, we're trying to
unirse a
offer
estas clases.
sometime on days like Thursday and
Los
Friday
niños
as
que
well.
tienen tutoría
Because
también van a
students who
poder
go to after
unirse a
school
esta clase
tutoring,
el
they
día jueves.
already are in after school tutoring. So we want to try to reach as many kids as possible.
Queremos tratar de
But we'll
que
starting small
muchos
and then
niños
hoping to
puedan
grow the
unirse a
program.
estas clases.
So.
Do we have a time set in the day, like when these classes will be offered,
Tenemos
or these will be
la
at
hora para
different
estas
times
clases.
after school?
So all of these are after school.
Todas
So
las
our
clases
students
van a
do
ser
receive
después
art
de la
and
escuela.
music throughout the
Durante el
day.
día los niños
They have STEAM
reciben
classes throughout
arte,
the
música
week
y
as well.
también
They have
ciencia.
PE in
Tienen
first through
gimnasia,
fifth grade
también de primero a
every
quinto
week, twice
grado
a week.
toda la
And
semana,
so
dos
some of
veces
these
por
things are
semana.
embedded, but these are after school
Pero
classes
estas
that
clases que
students would be
estamos
taking.
mostrando son para la tarde.
Okay, so this is like from the regular class, plus if they're going to have a fitness, it will be an addition to what they have in the
O
school.
sea, esto va a ser
And
adicional
so
a lo que
there,
ellos tienen
the
en la
class
escuela.
ends at will it be like from 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock, something
más o
like
menos a
that? Is
qué
there
hora
a
va a
time
ser, a
set,
las
or
3
the
o a las
times haven't
4?
been set yet?
So I will be sending out the information
Vamos
with
a
the
mandar
times
toda la
attached because
información
each
con
class is
la
going to
hora,
be
porque
different. They're
cada
not all on
clase
the
va a ser
same
un
day.
poquito diferente.
Some are on Thursday, and
No
all of them
todas
are
son el
after
mismo día.
dismissal.
Entonces,
they're
les vamos a
after,
mandar toda la información
upper
hoy,
grade
pero
dismissal.
todas estas
And so
clases son
for our
después
classes
de
that
la
include
salida de
kindergarten,
clases.
you would have to come back to campus with your kid for the after school.
Okay.
All right. So I want to talk a little bit about the local control accountability plan
Vamos a
timeline.
hablar
And so,
sobre el control,
our
el plan de control.
district has worked to align all of the plans that we have. And so there's what's called the strategic plan, which is our 6-year plan for
Estamos hablando
how
entonces
we
del plan
address the needs of our
estratégico,
students,
que cómo
both
vamos
from an
a
instructional standpoint, but also
ayudar a
from a
los
social
niños con sus
emotional,
necesidades de
and
la
also how
escuela
we
y
stay
también de
fiscally
la parte
responsible. And so
socioemocional.
that plan is 6 years. So in
Entonces, el plan
2021, we developed a
estratégico
6-year plan.
son 6 días.
The state additionally
perdón, 6
requires
años.
every 3 years
El
that we
Estado,
do a what's called an LCAP
el Estado
plan,
también
and that's
requiere que
3 years
nosotros
long. And so our
tengamos
strategic
el
plan is
plan,
6. That takes us
el
through
plan de
2 cycles of
control,
an LCAP
y
plan.
este son
In
de 3
addition
años.
to that,
Entonces,
the
2
LCAP
plan
has to be
del control
updated
de
annually.
responsabilidad
And
local
then I
cubren
presented a
el
little
plan
about
estratégico.
earlier about this in our one of our coffees about our site plan. Each year, schools
También
produce a
he
site
hablado
plan
sobre
that
el
aligns
plan
with the
de
LCAP,
cada
that
escuela.
aligns with our
Este
strategic plan.
plan
And so
también se
that's just how
alinea
we
al
align
plan
and make sure all of our
estratégico.
goals
Entonces,
are
nosotros nos aseguramos que todas las
really working towards
metas
the same
estén
goal
en el
as a
fondo, que
district,
todas
as
las
a
metas
state,
sean
and as a
iguales
school.
como distrito,
And
como
so
estado, de ayudar a los
this
niños.
explains a little bit more about that
Entonces,
process.
esto explica un
So
poquito más
in
sobre
the
el
LCAP, we
proceso
have to address our 8 state priorities, and the actions have to align
en el control
to
de
what
responsabilidad
our
local.
state says we need
Tenemos
to
que cubrir
improve upon
las
based on the
8
California dashboard.
prioridades del
This
Estado.
also is how we are funded from the
Esto
federal
también
government, from the state
nos
government. So
dice
our budgets
cómo
have to
nosotros
align
usamos
what
el
our
dinero
goals are. So
que
if it's not
tenemos.
in our goals, we really shouldn't be
Si,
spending money
si
on
ese
it. And
dinero
so
no está en nuestras metas,
the
no
LCAP,
podemos realmente
when
gastar
we
ese
update,
dinero.
also
Cuando tenemos
includes a
el
few
control
extra
local,
things. And so
el
one of
plan
the
de
things
control
is
local,
that we have to do an LCFF, and that's a local control funding formula
tenemos que
budget.
hacer
And
una
so
descripción general del
we have to present to
presupuesto para los
parents
padres.
and other stakeholders how funding decisions
Tenemos
are
que
made.
presentar
So there's a
para los
public accountability
padres
for the funds
y
we
también
spend.
para la junta
The
directiva
LCAP also
cómo decidimos
includes
nosotros
the
gastar ese
annual
dinero, dónde está el
update for any
presupuesto y
additional
cómo se va a
money
gastar
that
ese
we
presupuesto.
spend. And then that's done around February. So we're working on that process right now. And then it also talks about the federal addendum
También
aspect of it. And so every
plan,
Student
el
Succeeds
CAP,
Act,
habla sobre
we
el
may be
apéndice
familiar with the
federal,
No Child
que
Left
es
Behind,
requerido
that's my
por la ley
generation's.
Every
So
Student
that's the
Succeeds
new
Act, y describe cómo los distritos están
federal law that every
utilizando
student
los
succeeds
fondos
at ESSA.
federales a pesar
And we talk
de
about
que
how we
estos
spend the
también se
district federal
describen
funds
en el plan
as well.
de control local.
And so the supplement has 5 narrative prompts that we have to
suplemento
answer, and I'll
tiene-
share with you the
el
narrative
suplemento
prompts. I'll
tiene
read a few, but you'll get the
5
gist of what we have to
indicadores.
do with that.
Y se los voy a mostrar,
And it
pero sí van a tener
identifies
más o menos una idea en general
data and
de cómo
metrics that we've
funciona.
identified, and
También le vamos
any
a mostrar alguna información, algunos datos que hemos
updates that we want to
identificado
make
y todas las
to the things.
actualizaciones que quisiéramos
And
hacer.
again, what we know is when we get new information, we have
Nuevamente,
to update.
lo
And
que
so
sabemos
we
es
may
que
start with
cuando
a plan,
nosotros
and then we realize
recibimos
that it's not going to
información
work. And
nueva,
so it
tenemos
provides
que
some flexibility
actualizar
in
el
our
plan.
plan. And all of this has to be included in the
Todo
updates,
esto
and it's
tiene
presented
que
at a
estar-
board meeting.
Todo esto tiene que
And all this
siempre estar
happens before
incluido en la
February 28th. So
actualización
we have
del
a
plan
month
que
to
se
get through that. And
presenta
these are the
a
5 prompts that we have to
la
do.
junta directiva.
And so we respond to these. So
Estos
an
son las
example,
5
prompt 1,
indicaciones que
a
tenemos
description
que
of how
cubrir.
and when the LEA
Por ejemplo,
engaged
la
or
primera
plans to
es una
engage its
descripción
educational
de
partners
cómo y
on the
cuándo
use of funds
el
provided through the
EA
Budget
involucró,
Act of
planea
2021 that were
involucrar a
not
sus
included in
socios educativos en
21-22
el
Local
uso de
Control
los fondos
Ability
provistos
Plan.
a través de
So
la ley del presupuesto.
any additional funds that we're spending, we
Cualquier
have to
tipo de
address
fondo que
that.
nosotros
Another
gastemos,
example of things that we
tenemos que
want
nombrarlo
to
en
make
el
sure that we
plan.
do is, for example, here, we got some additional money for COVID-19.
Por
And
ejemplo,
so we
también
have to
aquí
write
tenemos
how we plan to
dinero
use that
que
one-time money
recibimos
to
debido a
help
la
students
pandemia
recover
y tenemos que
from the
decir
learning
cómo
loss that
vamos a
was
usar
caused of the
este dinero
pandemic.
que recibimos para ayudar a los
And
niños a
then,
recuperarse, a recuperar
again,
lo
the
que ellos
district
perdieron
responds to
durante
these
la
5
pandemia.
prompts and
Entonces,
presents
el
it in a
distrito,
public board
ellos
meeting.
responden a
And
estas 5
so
indicadores
our
en
local
una
control
reunión
accountability
pública.
plan, LCAP, addresses 8
El LCAP
state priorities. And these are
cubre 8
the
prioridades
8
y
here.
pueden ver aquí
I
en
want
la
to point
pantalla
out that the
cuáles son las
services
8
for
prioridades
foster
que
youth
tenemos.
and
Quiero
the
decir que los servicios para los niños que están en proceso de
instruction of
adopción,
expelled
la
students,
instrucción de los
those are
niños que
handled at the
se han
county level
echado de la
and
escuela,
not
esos son,
at the district level,
son
but we are accountable for our
indicadores
students that we
para
have in our school
el
district who are
condado,
foster youth,
no
but it's
necesariamente
addressed
para la
at the county
escuela.
level. But
Eso,
the other 6
eso
areas,
lo
student
tratan ellos
engagement,
en el
parental
condado.
involvement, course access,
Todo el resto que
implementation of
ven en la
Common Core standards,
pantalla
basic services, schools
involucra
climate, student achievement,
cómo
and
se
other student
involucra
outcomes
a
are
los
all
niños,
addressed in
el
our
clima de la
LCAP. And so
escuela,
when you
el
see our
logro del
goals here,
estudiante, servicios
goal 1,
básicos, eso
develop and
sí
implement effective and consistent
son las
instructional
prioridades
practices that meet the
estatales
needs
de
of all students.
California.
That addresses state priorities 2, 4, 7, and 8. And so in our goals, it'll
Entonces, en
call out
nuestras
which priorities
metas,
that we are addressing.
nosotros tenemos que decir
And then
cuáles son
we
las
also have
prioridades que estamos
aligned that with our strategic
cubriendo
plan
y
goals
siempre
as well.
alineados con el plan
So,
estratégico.
And again, all of these 5 goals
Estas 5
are how
metas
we
de las que
align
ya
how we
hablamos
spend our money.
se alinean en cómo nosotros
It
gastamos
is a
el
living
dinero
document,
que
like I said
tenemos.
before. We
Es
do
un
that. And so this is an
documento que va
update
cambiando, que se va
of the timeline.
actualizando.
So right now,
Aquí
we're
tenemos
sharing with
más o
all of our
menos
stakeholders, our ELACs,
el
our school site
cronograma
councils,
de cómo se va
our parent
desarrollando
groups, PTA.
este plan.
This
Aquí
is
lo pueden ver en la pantalla, la fecha.
the broader community is through the parent coffee. And what we do is we share
Comenzamos
the timeline, and
presentando a
then
los
we want you
padres,
to
a
know
los
the survey is opening
maestros,
on the
y
31st
queremos que
through the
sepan
18th. And it's
que
super important
el
that you guys
31 de enero al 18 de febrero
participate
se abre la
in the
ventana de la
LCAP. And
encuesta
the
de
reason
LCAP.
why
Y es
is
muy
we look
importante
at
que
that
ustedes
data and
participen
that
en esta
determines
encuesta,
how we
porque
run our
nosotros vemos
schools.
esta
And so
información
an
y vemos
example of something
cómo en
that
esa
came from the
información
LCAP is
vamos
that
actualizando
parents
nuestro plan de LCAP,
said
de
that
cómo
we
ayudamos a los niños,
lacked
cómo
after
ayudamos a las
school
escuelas.
enrichment for students. And so as part of that, the way we're addressing that is we're providing after school enrichment. Again, it's
Entonces,
not
por
for everyone
ejemplo,
yet,
todas
but we're
las
hoping to
clases que estamos
expand this
proporcionando
program
en la
so that
tarde
every kid
es
gets some
parte
sort of after school
del plan
enrichment. That's
de
one
cómo vamos a
example.
gastar el dinero.
There's some
Entonces, ese es un
examples about
ejemplo. También hay otros
academic progress
ejemplos,
as well
por
for
ejemplo, el
our
progreso
students who are
académico.
struggling.
Para los
Many
niños que
parents feel
están
like they
teniendo
needed something after
dificultad.
school to
Entonces, muchos
support tutoring. And
padres
so we
sienten
also
que
added tutoring options
los
as
niños
well. So
necesitan
the LCAP
apoyo
is
después de la
important. It's
escuela,
important
entonces
that
se
you
está
do it. We have
ofreciendo
paper
la
copies
tutoría.
as well as electronic copies.
Esta encuesta
But
va a
it's
ir en
important that
forma
you respond to
electrónica,
that because
pero
we really
también
do need it
tenemos
and try to
las
respond to it as
copias en
much as
papel
possible.
aquí en la oficina.
February 10th, there at the board meeting, there's going
El
to
10 de
be
febrero
a
se va
presentation
a
for the
presentar
supplement of
la
the annual update that I was
actualización
talking about a little
a la
earlier.
junta directiva.
In March, we're going to get the initial
En
input
marzo
and
vamos
drafting of the
a
annual update. They're going
revisar
to start
todos
doing that
los
initial draft.
comentarios
We're going
y
to be
comenzar
reviewing
a
the data in
redactar la
April. And
actualización
then
anual. En
at the end
abril
of
se va a
April,
revisar toda esta
the
información.
LCAP draft is due.
El
And from
29 de
May,
abril
all of
se
May,
entrega este
there will be a
borrador.
chance for you to publicly comment
En mayo
on
también tendrán la
the
oportunidad de
LCAP
hacer
as it's
comentarios
the
públicos
updated
sobre
LCAP.
la actualización de
And
LCAP.
then there will be a presentation
Y
in
también
May.
tendremos una presentación en
That
mayo
board meeting is
en la
a
junta
public hearing,
directiva
so anyone in
con
the
una
district can come to
audiencia
that.
pública.
We'll also be presenting at
Cualquier
our
persona del
ELACs,
distrito
DLACs,
puede
parent coffees as well.
asistir
And then on
a
June
esta
16th,
reunión.
ideally, we will adopt our
El
new
16 de junio,
LCAP for next
idealmente,
year,
se podrá
updated
adaptar
LCAP for
este
next
plan
year.
de LCAP.
So that's the timeline for that.
Esa es
Go
más
ahead
o
and ask
menos
the
la
question.
cronología.
I'm just curious, I know we've only been a school for a few years, but I'm curious to see what kind of involvement do you see in these surveys? Like how high is the response rate?
No sé, curiosidad de
It
cuánta
is
gente
lower.
realmente contesta esta
The first
encuesta.
year, I think we had
Es baja.
maybe 125 parents respond.
El primer año
And
tal vez
again, we have
tuvimos más o
families,
menos
and so how that
125
relates to
padres
students, we only
que
have 300
respondieron
students.
esta
Not sure
encuesta.
exactly. Last year was lower,
El
and
año
I think a lot of
pasado
that
fue
had to
muy
do with
bajo.
the pandemic and people not really
Pensamos que
being
tal vez
connected
tenga
with the
algo que ver
school.
con la pandemia porque
And
los
so this
padres
year
no
we're
estaban
hoping
muy
for more
conectados con la
volunteers
escuela,
or for more
pero
parent involvement.
este
What we
año
do and
esperamos
pride ourselves on is
recibir
all of
un
our
poco
students who
más.
are eligible to do the LCAP do it during the school day, because we also want input from the students and the teachers
Lo que
as well, and
esperamos
staff
que
members.
Yeah, I think
el
it's great that you're doing
personal,
this. I
los
remember when my
maestros y los
oldest was
niños,
in
si ellos lo pueden
elementary
hacer
school at
aquí en la
Landals,
escuela, vamos a
there were a
tratar
lot
de
of decisions
hacerlo
being made, and a lot
durante
of the parents
clase.
didn't feel like they supported the decisions the district was making. And then they said, well, we're making these based on these surveys. And a lot of people didn't realize how important they were. So I'm glad that you're doing this little informational thing.
Mucha gente
The other question I have about it
anteriormente
is,
que
sometimes
se
I fill out the
hicieron
school surveys
cambios
from our district
sin
and
el
it'll
apoyo de
say,
los
I mean,
comentarios de
obviously it's
padres,
tough
pero los
because I've got
padres no
4,
estaban
right?
respondiendo.
Is
la
this one
encuesta.
specific to Vargas, or is this just, because sometimes they'll say, base this on your oldest child in the district. And so I'm then thinking about Crittenden. Is this one for specific to Vargas, or is it for all the district?
So, and this is the tricky part too, right? When you have kids at multiple schools, they do it on the oldest student. And when you think about your oldest student, you would mark Crittenden. And so it would go into the Crittenden section of the
feedback isn't going to go to you guys at all anyway. Could I have my husband do it for the boys?
Yeah,
and I do it
yeah.
for
La
the girls?
pregunta es
Okay, maybe I'll
básicamente
do
si
that.
los niños
Yeah, and so
hacen
that's
la
a great
encuesta,
way
cuál es el que
to solve
cuenta.
that
Si
issue.
tenemos más
And
de un
there's
niño,
feedback that
generalmente el
district
mayor
gets, and
es
so
el que
there could
cuenta.
be a general, like,
Entonces, por
in our
ejemplo, si
district,
tiene
these
uno
are
aquí en
things that want
Vargas y
to
uno en
change, and
Crittenden,
then it
el de
could be at my
Crittenden es
specific
el que
site,
ellos
these are things that
van a tomar.
also I want to change. And so thinking about it from a global standpoint and as a district. And so what we often see is trends as a district. And so the board will, they'll present out what the district is saying. And so after school enrichment is actually something that all schools would benefit from,
Por ejemplo, las
according to the
clases
surveys.
después de la
And part
escuela
of that, and I
es
think I've
algo
explained this
que de
in
acuerdo a la
several meetings
encuesta,
about how we can
todas las
advertise
escuelas
outside
quieren esto.
after school enrichment versus
Entonces,
if
queremos
we are
ver,
providing it, how we can actually
queremos
offer
ver
that to
cómo
students. And
vamos
so
a ofrecerle esto a
that's kind of the
estudiantes,
fuzziness of it. And so
cómo
in the middle school,
podemos
I know that Spanish, they want
decirles a la
Spanish in the schools,
gente
and it's really hard right now
de
to
las
find a
clases que
Spanish
tenemos.
teacher.
Entonces, eso a
Because
veces es un poco
if you can teach Spanish in
difícil.
middle
Por
school, you can also
ejemplo,
teach in high
si
school,
queremos
and high
tener un
school district
maestro que enseñe
locally
español,
pays a lot
podemos
more. And so
tenerlo
we've had
en
trouble
high school, lo
keeping
podemos
our
tener
Spanish teachers
en middle
in
school.
middle school. Having experience working at Graham, I know that
Teniendo la
firsthand.
experiencia en la escuela Graham, yo sé que, bueno,
But
algunos
course
profesores
variety
pagan
is
más
something
cuando
that
están en high
parents
school.
have shared with the district and specifically Vargas that they would like to see. All right. Of course, if you have questions later on, you can ask them. I'm going to move on to the iReady
Okay, vamos a
data
pasar a la
and share
información
some
de iReady.
updates
Si tiene más preguntas,
or
las puede
some
hacer más
overview of the
tarde.
data. I'm going to go through the slides and explain early on. I'll explain a little more and then I'll just kind of breeze through. I'm going to be sharing both of these presentations
Voy a
later. And so if
compartir
you want to
estas
peruse through the data
presentaciones
a
más
little more
tarde
carefully,
por
I'll
si
give
quieren
that to
ver la
you.
información más
So we can do that.
detalladamente. Ahora
And
voy
so,
a tratar de hacerlo
again,
un poco más rápido.
going back to our strategic plan,
Okay,
goal
nuevamente,
number one is effective and
nombrando
consistent
al plan
instructional practices that
estratégico,
meets the needs of all
la
students.
meta
And in
número
order to know
uno
that you're
es
meeting the
tener
needs of students, you have to
instrucción
have some way of
efectiva y
tracking the data
consistente.
that you do. And so we're looking at the
Entonces,
growth that we have
una forma de
for our
hacer eso
students. And so I'll
es
start
viendo
with
siempre
reading.
los datos, la
And
información que
so
tenemos. Vamos a
you'll know
comenzar
if
con
it's Vargas or
iReady en
district.
lectura.
I did put a label here at the top. So this is
Puede
district-wide,
ver en la
the growth
pantalla
from trimester 1 to
el
trimester 2,
crecimiento
or
del
diagnostic
trimestre
1 to
1 o
diagnostic
al
2.
trimestre
And
2.
so what you will see, and I'll explain this, there's a faint
Lo que ve
color,
es que el que
and
está
then
más
there's a
clarito
bold
y el que
color.
está más oscuro.
Faint always
¿Sí?
refers to the
El color
D1,
que está más
and the
clarito
dark color is D2. And so in
es el
D1,
trimestre 1 comparado con el más
in the
oscuro que es
district,
el trimestre
52% of
2.
students were proficient in reading. In D2, 63% were proficient, tier
El
1.
primer trimestre teníamos
The yellow
52
tier means that they were
competentes, el
one
segundo
grade level
teníamos
behind.
62.
And so we had 28%,
En
and
el
we shrunk
amarillo
that to
dice que si
21%.
tiene un nivel bajo
Red
nivel de
is
grado,
tier 3,
el
and that is
rojo
2 or more
dice
years behind
2
grade
o
level.
más
And that as a
años
district went from
bajo nivel de
20% to
grado.
15%.
Y ahí bajó de 20%
These
al
down here
15%.
show the
Abajo
extremes, and so there's a 5
puede
level as
ver
well. So
también
these are
los
students
niveles.
who are above grade level. This is showing how many are actually
Los
above grade
niños
level,
en
and
el
this is
verde están
significantly. So this is
sobre el
maybe
nivel de
2
grado.
years. This is 3 years below grade level. So you can look at it that way as well. So this is Vargas.
Esta es la escuela
And so
Vargas.
when you look at the data, you see that we went
Entonces,
from
si ven,
52 to 67%,
subimos de
which is similar
52
to
a
the district.
62%, lo que es muy similar
And then
al
here,
distrito.
I like to point out the ends here. How many students who were far below grade level? So tier 3,
Okay, en el nivel
14%, and
número
we've shrunk that to
3
10%. So that's similar to what's
se,
happening in the
se
district,
bajó un
if you look at
poco
a
los
comparison.
niños que estaban muy por debajo del nivel de grado.
So this is looking at the schools and comparing them so you
Esto
can
es
see
más o menos
how we
comparar
are
las
doing
escuelas para que vean
here.
cómo está la escuela
And
Vargas.
I'll note here that some of the data is a little bit different because the
Aquí la
district took
información
this
es
a
un
little
poquito
earlier than
diferente
I took my data
porque
screenshots, and
esto
what
el
gets added
distrito lo
to the
tomó
testing
antes
pool.
de lo que tomamos
But you'll see
aquí
here for
en
Vargas, you can
Vargas.
see it as a
Pero puede
graphic
ver
form
que aquí en
here, how
Vargas
many kids grew. And you do want to see the
puede ver
green
el
get
verde, el
bigger,
color
you
verde
want to see the red
es el que
decrease.
usted quiere ver
The
más
yellow can increase or
grande,
decrease depending
aumentando,
on if
y
they're
el
coming from the
rojo
green
es
or the
el que
red.
usted quiere que
Because
se
we
vea
increased our
más
green, you're
chico.
seeing most likely that our increase in our yellows are decreasing, and the reds are going to the yellows, if that makes any sense. So you can see that here.
Nice job on that.
Yeah. And so this
buen
is
trabajo
showing-
en esto,
yeah,
sí.
and so this is a comparison, so how we can see
Aquí puede
in
cambiar
comparison
otra
how we did
vez
with the
en la
district.
pantalla,
So this is
puede ver
on
la,
grade level,
la
on or above grade
comparación
level, trimester one,
en
trimester two.
niños que
And if you
están
look at
sobre el nivel
Vargas,
de grado
we
a niños que
increase
están bajo el
16
nivel de
percentage
grado.
points.
Si ven a la escuela Vargas,
Right. And
nosotros
so if you
subimos
look, that's
16%.
Montaloma is the only school that outperformed
Montaloma es la
us in terms of
única
increasing where
escuela
students
que
were.
tiene un poquito más
We have the
alto
similar
que lo
as
que
Bub
tenemos nosotros.
and Stevenson
Estamos muy cercanos a
for
Stevenson
reading
y a la escuela
increases.
BAB.
And how this helps us really understand is that
Y esto como nos
holistically,
ayuda a nosotros,
schools like MI, schools like
por
Stevenson,
ejemplo,
overall, their kids start
la
or
escuela
have
IMAI y
81
la escuela
percentage points. That's
Stevenson,
significantly
en
higher
general,
number of students
ellos
on grade level.
comienzan
But
con
in terms
niños
of
a
how we're
nivel de
growing
grado o
students,
sobre el nivel
it's a
de grado.
similar
Pero como
trend.
si ven
And ideally, that's what
el
we want is
porcentaje de
all
los
kids
niños
to
que van
grow.
mejorando
And
es
so
muy similar.
we're looking at how students grow, not just absolutes.
Entonces queremos
Absolutes are
ver
important, but how we
cómo
grow
van
students
mejorando los
is also
niños. Eso es
important.
lo que queremos ver.
Okay. And so this is by grade level, and what
Esto
we
es para
see
nivel de
across
grado.
the district, so this is at the
Y
district
como
level,
ven a
is
nivel
that
distrito,
students in kindergarten
que los niños en kinder
tend to grow more than our students in
tienden a
fifth grade. So in
mejorar
kindergarten,
más que
the
los
number of
niños
students who were
de quinto grado.
at grade level went from 45% to 69%.
Los niños de
25
kinder
points,
subieron
whereas
de
in fifth
45
grade,
a
it's only
69,
8 percentage
pero en
points.
quinto grado
The
solamente
content is
una
harder.
diferencia de
It's
8%.
students are further behind the older they
Bien,
grow. And so this is
entonces,
harder for them to make
En
that progress
quinto
and
es
growth.
más difícil porque los niños están
And then in the
mucho
earlier
más por
grades.
debajo del nivel de grado.
This is Vargas, and you
Aquí
see a
está la escuela
similar trend
Vargas
here.
y como
We went from
pueden ver es muy
41%
similar a
to
la escuela,
76%.
a la información del distrito.
And so the kindergarten teachers are doing a really great job.
Desde como
First
pueden ver,
grade,
los
you see
maestros
that
de
growth that
kinder
they're
han hecho un
making.
muy buen trabajo.
We do see here in
Hemos
third grade,
visto en
we're a little
tercer grado
stagnant.
que estamos un poquito
The number of students who are
estancados.
proficient stayed the same. And we decreased the number of red percentage points.
Bajamos un
But
poco el
we have a lot
nivel
of work
de
to
los
figure out what's
niños
going on
que
there.
están en rojo. Y
When I
son
was
los niños que
explaining this
están
last night
2
to
o
our
3 niveles
ELAC,
bajo
one
el
of the
nivel de grado.
hypotheses that I have is that these students were in
Pensamos
first
nosotros
grade
que en tercer grado,
at
los
the
niños que
start of
están
the
en tercer grado
pandemic.
ahora
And so
estaban en
looking
primero
at
cuando
reading their
empezó la
foundational
pandemia.
skills, they never got the end of first grade.
Entonces
And
ellos
then their
nunca
second grade where they
tuvieron la
start to practice and
oportunidad de
solidify
terminar
reading
el
skills
primer
was
grado con los
during remote
fundamentos que se
learning,
enseñan en
right? And
primer
so
grado.
there was some growth
Entonces
made
ahora
last year, but I
estamos
think that
viendo que el
impacted their
crecimiento
ability
que
to
se
really
hizo el
be
año
solid
pasado y
in
de
their
todas
skills. And you can
formas
see, well, I'll show you a little
todavía
bit later about
impacta
breakdown
a
in
los
specific
niños de
skill,
tercer
and you'll see
grado.
that in their phonics ability. And so this is breaking
Aquí
it
también
down by
pueden ver
subcategory. And so we look at it holistically,
en
but then we also
diferentes
break it
grupos.
down by specific category. So
Estas
English
son
learners are students who
categorías
speak
específicas.
English as a second language or have
Los
a
niños que están aprendiendo
language
el
other than
idioma
English
inglés,
spoken in the home. We got
los
our
niños
English
que
only
hablan
students.
inglés fluido,
We got our
los niños que se han
reclassified students. So these are
reclasificado,
students who were former ELLs who were
niños
proficient
que
on one of the
eran
tests
estudiantes del idioma inglés,
and
pero ahora se han
have high enough
reclasificado
English
a
skills.
tener inglés fluido.
SWD is students with disabilities,
Los
or
niños que
students
tienen
with disabilities, and
discapacidades
SED are
y los niños con una
socioeconomically disadvantaged. These are
desventaja
our free and
económica.
reduced qualified students. And so when you look here, you do
Entonces,
see a
cuando ve aquí
discrepancy,
en
right? Our
Vargas,
English learners are at
sí puede
35%,
ver
whereas our
que los
English
estudiantes del
only
idioma
students
inglés
are at
tienen un
75% proficient.
35% sobre el nivel de grado, los que hablan
What
inglés
is of
fluido,
note, though, is that our English
75%
learners who
están
have
en nivel de
reclassified
grado o
have
sobre
the
el nivel de grado.
highest of the three
También hemos
categories.
visto que los niños que se
So if
han
students reclassify,
reclasificado
they
tienen un
outperform our students who are English only,
79%
right? And that kind
sobre
of
el
makes
nivel de
sense
grado.
in that to be able to reclassify, you have to be proficient. And so
Entonces tiene un poco de
we do
sentido
see
porque
that.
para poder reclasificarse tiene que ser competente y fluido en el idioma
And
inglés.
so this is the change from the district-wide. So growth
Este es el
district-wide
cambio
of
en,
English
a
language
nivel de
learners,
distrito.
EOs, RFEPs, and so forth. There's about an 8% gain
Más o
change
menos ha
in
subido
those
un
categories, 9 for
8%
English
en
only.
estas
And then
categorías.
we can look
Y
here
si
for
ven
our Asian,
aquí,
white, and Hispanics.
podemos ver
And as you'll
al
see, there
grupo
is a
asiático,
discrepancy between our
hispano y al
Asian
grupo blanco.
population, our Hispanic population,
Hay
and
una
our
gran
white population.
diferencia entre el grupo
And so
asiático y el grupo
what
hispano
this
y el
tells
grupo
us is that we have a
blanco.
lot of work to do in certain categories
Y eso lo
to
que nos
grow
dice es que
students.
tenemos
So
que hacer
our
mucho
Hispanic
trabajo en
students,
ciertas
our students
categorías.
with disabilities,
Los niños
our
hispanos y los
students
niños
who are
con
economically
discapacidad
disadvantaged,
y los
and
niños con
our
bajos
English learners,
ingresos.
really we have to do more to support those
Realmente
students.
tenemos que hacer más
Doesn't mean
para
that we're leaving
apoyar a
these
esos
students out and not
grupos
doing anything for them,
específicos.
but we also
No
need to
significa que no
put a
hacemos
hyper
nada, sino
laser
que
focus on those students
tenemos
who
que
really
enfocarnos
need our
más
help.
en ese grupo.
And so this category
Esta
is here. This
categoría
is for Vargas Elementary. This is
es
a comparative reading
de
subgroups.
Vargas
And this is the growth just in those
y este
subgroups
es
for
el
Vargas.
crecimiento.
And what you'll see
Entonces,
for the
entre
district,
el
it was
trimestre
9%
1
percentage
y el
change. We
trimestre
have
2,
17%. So
si
we
pueden
are
ver, por
doing
ejemplo, los
well
estudiantes del idioma
in
inglés han subido
helping our ELs grow,
17%.
but we have to do
Entonces,
more
estamos
to make
trabajando y
them
los
grow
hemos
even more.
ayudado, pero tenemos que hacer más.
Our categories where we're not having the most growth are our students
Donde
who are
tenemos que ayudar más
socioeconomically
los
disadvantaged
niños
and our
con
Asian populations.
desventaja
Our
económica y el
Asian
grupo
population is doing
asiático,
well,
porque
but we can
ellos
do better to keep
no
the
han subido,
pace with the growth that we have with other students.
no han tenido el crecimiento que los otros grupos.
And what this also demonstrates is that people often talk about the one way to close the achievement gap is to just lower the bar, right? And so we
Eso
bring our
también
students who
está
are at the top
hablando
down so
de,
that
por
they meet the
ejemplo,
middle. That's
de los
one way
niños
people
que
talk
están
about it.
muy
But what you'll
arriba,
see here is that
bajar para
our English
cerrar
language
la
learners
brecha que
are
hay
growing 17%,
entre los niños
but
que
our
están más
English
bajos y los
only
más
students
altos.
are also
Los-
growing at a
Los
similar
niños
rate.
que
And so we may not
hablan
be
inglés
decreasing
siguen
the achievement
subiendo.
gap per se, but we
Entonces,
are
los niños
decreasing
que están más bajos
how
también
many
están
students who
subiendo.
are
Entonces,
proficient
no,
so
no
that we can
baja
close
la
that
brecha
achievement
que
gap. That's
tenemos
what we
entre
want
los
to
dos
do, is
grupos,
meet
no
the
se
ceiling,
achica
not
porque
lower
los dos
the,
van subiendo. Entonces,
the
es
ceiling.
bueno
So
porque no se va separando
we
más,
can see that here with that data.
se mantiene más o menos
Okay.
igual
And then
porque los
this is
dos
what I was
grupos
talking about, the
suben al
mean.
mismo
So
tiempo. Entonces, aquí también
looking at
pueden ver
this
las
data, what we have
necesidades
here is
de Vargas.
PA stands for phonemic awareness. Phonemic awareness is the sounds that words or that
Aquí
the
estamos
sounds in English
hablando de los
and understanding how
sonidos
those
en
sounds work
inglés,
together. And so
cómo
this is
se
talking about like
ponen
things like
juntos,
rhyming.
cómo
Does
se
this word
unen
rhyme with
estos
this?
sonidos.
Can you hear
Las
the sounds
rimas.
in a word? So if I say
Por ejemplo, si
cat,
uno
do
dice
you
una
hear
palabra, pueden
cat?
escuchar
Do you
los
hear those
tres
three sounds? That
sonidos.
there's three sounds in there. And so a word like
Estos son los fonemas.
trying to think of a word like still has
Por ejemplo,
still.
una
So there are
palabra
four sounds in still,
tiene, por ejemplo,
even
still
though
tiene
there are
4
5 letters.
sonidos.
And
Hay
letters,
5
when you start
letras,
to add the
pero hay
letters,
4
that's
sonidos.
phonics.
Entonces, cuando
And so
hacemos
what sounds
fonética es cuando estamos
correspond to
hablando
letters.
de
And so
letras. ¿Qué
knowing
sonido
that
corresponde a cada letra?
at is a C letter, even though the k sound could be made with a C or a K. So that would be phonics instruction, is what sounds letters make. High frequency words, you'll hear
Las
your teachers
palabras de
refer to them
uso
as sight words
frecuente
as well. And those
están
are the words that when you
hablando
read,
de
you
las
just see it
palabras
and you
que
know the
uno
words
las ve
and
y las
for,
puede leer.
but
No
A,
tiene que hacer
I.
los
In
sonidos,
kindergarten, they have
sino
the 20
que,
sight words that they
que
send home
en
with you and
kinder
you
tienen
practice that.
27 palabras
As
que envían a
a
casa a
proficient
practicar.
English reader, most words are sight words for us.
So
We
esas
just know them. We
palabras
don't
nosotros
sound them
las
out and do
vemos
it
y
phonetically.
las podemos leer.
Vocabulary
El vocabulario,
is knowing the meanings of words.
saber el
And,
significado de cada
thinking about
palabra.
how those relate. And so in upper grades, it looks like prefixes, suffix, and Greek and Latin roots to see how those words are interconnected. Literature and info refer to comprehension.
Aquí
Literature
las dos últimas
is
columnas se
stories,
refieren a la
whereas info
comprensión.
is informational
Literatura
text.
son
And so
historias
what
y
this
el
chart
texto
is showing you
informativo es
is
el
what
info.
students still need. And so I'll
Entonces
give you an
aquí le
example.
estamos mostrando lo que
At the
necesitan los
beginning in
niños. Por
trimester one,
ejemplo, en el trimestre 1,
54% of our students needed help with
54%
phonemic
de los niños
awareness.
necesitaba saber
In trimester
sobre los
2, only
sonidos. En el
19% of
trimestre
students
número
needed
2,
help with
solamente
phonemic
el
awareness.
19%
And so you
necesitaba
want to
saber
see
más sobre
a
los sonidos.
decrease
Entonces queremos
in the
ver que esos
scores. And so
números
you kind of
vayan
see that with all
bajando.
of the ones in kindergarten. There's
Eso
a
significa que los
decrease
niños han ido aprendiendo cada una de estas
because that means that
categorías.
kids understand that.
Significa que los niños van
What we
entendiendo.
do see here at Vargas is that for phonemic awareness,
Lo que vemos
once you
aquí
get
en
to third grade, our
Vargas es que
students
cuando una vez
understand the
llegamos
sounds
a
of words.
tercer
So that's
grado,
great.
los niños, claro, entienden los sonidos.
This one shows, so if you look at that chart, this is the area
Aquí
of need
muestran en la
for our
pantalla, estamos
students. So in
viendo las
kindergarten, it's phonics and
necesidades de
vocabulary.
cada grado.
In
En
fifth
kinder
grade, it's
es
vocabulary and
fonética y
informational
vocabulario, en quinto grado
comprehension.
es
So
vocabulario
that's
y
where they struggle the
comprensión de
most.
texto informativo.
Across our grade, informational comprehension is
En general, por
an
todos los
area of
grados
need.
es
And
donde
so we're going to do some
necesitamos
work as a
mejorar,
group
es la
to do that.
comprensión
And then
de
vocabulary
lectura.
also comes
También
out quite frequently.
vocabulario también sale
Across all grade levels, the
frecuentemente.
area where we are kind of knocking it out of the park is phonological awareness.
¿Sí? Donde
So that's good
la
to know.
mejor parte para todas las clases es lo
And what
fonética, que
I
eran
was
los
saying earlier
sonidos.
about third grade, what you'll see here is about 31% of our students still have phonics instruction that they're struggling
Que en
with.
tercer
And
grado
going back
todavía
to first
vemos
and second grade,
a
that makes
niños
sense
que
because they had
todavía
the
tienen
pandemic impact
dificultad
there.
con
If you look at our
los
fourth and
sonidos
fifth
de
grade
las
students,
letras, de cada
that doesn't
letra,
exist really.
reconocer las letras.
And I think that's my hypothesis is that that's part of the
Y
pandemic had an
nuevamente
impact
estos
on
números,
that for the students.
nosotros pensamos que
You
fue
can even
por
see in
el
a
efecto que
second grade,
tuvo la
47%,
pandemia en los
almost half of
niños
the
que no
kids,
pudieron terminar
phonics
aquí
is an
la
area of
escuela
struggle.
en el salón.
And again, they missed the end of kindergarten and
Ellos
first grade was
perdieron
online for them. And
perdieron
so
el final
this
de
makes sense.
kinder y
And so we're
todo
doing
primer
things to
grado fue
address that.
en la casa.
I'll go into math data. I'll go a little quicker at math data because I don't have
Aquí
to
vamos
explain
a
some of
ver
the fundamentals. So I'll
matemáticas,
just show the
vamos a
slides
ir un
and
poquito
kind of
más
talk through
rápido en
them. So
matemáticas.
this is the district,
Esta
42%,
es la información
57%,
del
and then a
distrito.
decrease 22 to 15%. Looking here,
Aquí está la
we
información
find Vargas. So Vargas, we got
de la escuela
36%
Vargas,
to
36% a
58%. So there's growth there.
58%, hubo un
And then
crecimiento.
if you look at the number
Y
of
si
students in the
ven
red,
los números
we almost half
rojos,
that, which is a good thing.
tuvimos más o menos la mitad.
I will say that overall, our math scores are lower than our reading
En
scores.
general,
And I
nuestros
think that's a trend
puntajes en
in the district.
matemáticas
And
son
part
más
of that,
bajos que los puntajes
there's
de
some
lectura.
research
Y eso
from
es más o
pandemic,
menos en general para
is
todo
that
el
math is
distrito.
taught more formally. And so
Matemáticas
kids don't kind of
se
stumble across how to
enseña
do
en forma
multiplication
más
fractions.
formal.
And
Los
so
niños no
it has to be
aprenden a
explicitly taught.
multiplicar
And
o a
because the
sumar.
pandemic
Ellos
shortened
tienen
our
que,
days,
les tienen
it
que
shortened the
enseñar
amount of instruction that we
específicamente
had.
esas
Kids didn't
habilidades.
get as solid
Entonces,
of
porque
an understanding of
estuvimos
the math.
virtual,
But
los
you'll
niños
see
no
here,
tuvieron
we still have some
un
significant
entendimiento
growth.
sólido de lo que se les
Again, we're
estaba
behind
enseñando.
Montaloma, but ahead
Como pueden ver aquí el puntaje,
of the other schools in terms of our growth for students.
Vargas subió un
So
22%.
kids at Vargas are learning. That's what I'm taking
Los
away from this.
niños
So,
en la escuela
that's a
Vargas
good
están
thing.
aprendiendo y eso es algo
We are
bueno.
starting lower than other schools in our
Estamos
district,
más bajos
but with
que
the students that we
otros,
have, we are making
que
progress.
otras
And
escuelas,
I
pero
think
sí
that's what we want
estamos
to focus on with our students.
progresando.
And this is the comparative math from school. So this chart
Esta
shows
compara las escuelas en
in-person,
matemáticas.
virtual, and in-person before pandemic. So before the pandemic in math, we
Aquí
were at
está
56%. During the
2019
pandemic,
en
we actually
persona
shot up to
y también
60%.
está
My
virtual.
hypothesis there is that
Por ejemplo,
some
en esto
parents
subió de
over-assisted
56
in
a
some of the
60.
tests
Y
because
eso
it was
fue
done
durante
remotely.
la
But you'll
virtual.
see here,
Pero
there's a little
pensamos que tal
growth,
vez los
but
padres
overall it's
ayudaron
kind
un
of the
poquito en
same
la
as
casa,
before the
entonces el
pandemic.
puntaje está un poquito más alto.
So this is by grade level and a
Aquí
similar
nuevamente
thing
pueden
that we
ver
saw before
los niveles de grado,
in growth.
pueden ver el
And
crecimiento.
here is
Y
how we're doing
aquí
with our English learners
es
and all of that. So
nuevamente por categoría,
35% for English learners.
cómo están las categorías de los
66% for
estudiantes del
English
idioma
only
inglés,
students. Our
35%,
RFEP students aren't
los
outperforming
que hablan inglés fluido,
in math,
66%,
but it's similar to English only students.
los niños que están
students with disabilities
reclasificados,
are doing the
61%, y los que están
in their math. And so we
muy
got to work
bajo en
on kind of
matemáticas son
supporting
los
students
niños
with
con
that.
discapacidad.
And then our students who are economically disadvantaged, our free and reduced students are here at 20%.
Y
So
20%
these
están
areas
los
are where
niños
we're
con
struggling the most. English learners, we're also struggling
nivel económico bajo.
across the board for English and math. And then this is for Vargas, our growth. And again,
Es el
if we focus on the
crecimiento
growth, we're
para
making significant
Vargas
growth
y
with our
Silven.
students
Estamos
in our
haciendo un
categories.
progreso.
Our students with
Es un aumento
disabilities and our RFEP students
significativo.
are our lowest.
Los más
here,
bajos son los niños que se han
but
reclasificado
there's
y los niños con
significant growth
discapacidad.
in our English learners,
Pero vemos un
our English only
crecimiento
students, our
significativo
Asian
en los
students,
estudiantes que
and
están
our white
aprendiendo
students.
inglés,
Our
el grupo
Latino students are
asiático,
actually
el
making
grupo
some
blanco.
good growth as well.
Y el grupo latino también está haciendo un buen progreso.
And so this is the comparison for
Nuevamente
ethnicity.
aquí
So
podemos
we got our
ver
Asian
la
students at
comparación del
78%,
grupo
and there's a
asiático, hispano y
huge
blanco.
discrepancy with our Hispanic Latino students.
Aquí
And then
ven
our white
una
students are at
diferencia muy
69%
grande
behind our
entre
Asian
el
students.
grupo hispano y el grupo asiático.
So there's work to be done. We are making progress,
Hay
but there's still
trabajo
work
que
to be done,
tenemos
a
que
lot of work to
hacer,
be done.
estamos
And so this is the
progresando,
needs
pero
analysis for
todavía
math.
hay trabajo que hay que hacer.
And so we have
Aquí están
numbers and
las
operations.
necesidades
So
de
for
matemática,
our students, numbers and operations
números
are
y
counting in
operaciones, contar,
in first grade, but then addition, subtraction, multiplication.
suma, multiplicación, resta,
Algebra.
álgebra,
We've got MS, which stands for measurement.
medidas,
And so, you know, measurement, it's measurement. Rulers, weights, kilograms, and then geometry here.
y
And so
geometría.
what you'll see here in our needs,
Entonces
is
lo que
that
ve aquí en
our
la
top
parte de
area of need
necesidad,
for third through fifth grade is
de tercero
geometry.
a quinto grado,
And just so
la
you know, our
necesidad
curriculum,
es
geometry
geometría.
is always the last
Geometría
unit
siempre
taught.
es la
And so
última unidad que
oftentimes
se enseña,
it's
entonces
not
muchas
practiced as
veces
much. And so
no
our
se
kids
alcanza a practicar
often skip geometry
como las otras
aspects
unidades.
of it, or don't get as solid of an
Entonces muchas
instruction
veces
because that's
los
run
niños
testing.
no alcanzan a tener una
Our
instrucción
kids
sólida
in
de
first grade,
geometría.
numbers and
En
operations
primer
are their
grado,
highest
ellos
area of
necesitan
need.
todavía
And my
trabajar en
hypothesis there is that
operaciones y
in
números.
kindergarten and first grade, everything is hands-on. So they
En
physically
kinder y en
touch
primero,
materials.
todo
And
es
during the pandemic, we
manualidades. Los
didn't
niños
have as
tienen que
many
tocar, tienen que contar,
manipulatives available. We sent a few
manipulativos para
things home,
usar.
but
Pero cuando
generally
los niños estuvieron
from
en
day
la
to
casa, en
day, kids
general,
are
ellos no
always touching,
tenían
they're cutting, they're
esa
having that hands-on experience, they're
manipulativo,
counting
no
out loud
tuvieron
and
esa
singing.
experiencia
And
de contar en
during
voz alta, de
remote school, that
cortar, de
just didn't
pegar.
happen as much
Entonces, cuando ellos
and
estuvieron en
as
forma virtual,
robustly as
no
we do
tuvieron la
now. And
oportunidad
so
de hacer
our
lo que
first
se hace
grade
aquí en
students,
clase. Entonces, los
this year, our
niños de
first grade
primer
teachers
grado
kind of identified that early on. And so we've
identificaron
got a bunch
eso
of
al
manipulatives
principio
so
del año
that they can have that work in class.
y
And
están
so that's kind of
trabajando
what we're
en
seeing
eso
here.
en clase.
Across the board, algebra, our kids are doing well in algebra.
Los
So
niños
that's a
en
highlight.
álgebra
And so what are our
están bien.
next steps? And so
Entonces, ¿qué
as
vamos
a
a hacer?
school,
Como
we've looked at the
escuela,
data whole class, our whole
vemos,
site.
vemos la
Teachers
información de
look at their
toda la
class
escuela.
data, and then as a
Los
grade
maestros
level,
ven la
we
información
also
de
look
cada
at the
clase.
data and
También
see what
vemos la
trends are in
información
each
a
grade.
nivel de grado.
But one thing that we also do is
Y
we look
también
at
vemos
actual
la
individual
información en
students.
forma
And
individual.
so I have erased the names of students for privacy reasons.
Aquí obviamente no
But
vemos
each
los nombres de los
student that's
niños,
highlighted represents an
pero
actual individual student. And so
cada
the color that's
número
highlighted,
en
so
la
student
pantalla
15,
representa
I'll
un
start
niño. Por
in
ejemplo,
this one because it'll be easier. So student 41,
el estudiante
highlighted in
41
red, that's
está
where they
en
were
rojo.
first trimester.
Entonces, el primer
Second
trimestre ellos
trimester
están en
is
el
their
grupo
placement
rojo.
on the chart.
El
And so
segundo
41
trimestre,
was 2 years, 2 or more grade levels below in trimester
ellos
1.
están en amarillo.
This
O sea, el
trimester, they're
primer
only one
trimestre
grade level
estaban
below. And so you can see
dos
their growth.
niveles
So
o
this is a
más
good way
bajo
for us
el
to
nivel de grado.
physically
El
see
segundo
how
trimestre
kids are
están a
doing.
un nivel.
And what we
más
do
bajo
is
de nivel
these
de grado.
students increase their placement. So from
Entonces vemos que
trimester
hay
1 to
algunos
trimester 2,
estudiantes que
they've increased their
subieron
placement.
su nivel.
These students have decreased their placement.
Hay
And this
estudiantes
is a
que han
concern for us,
bajado
especially
su
the student
nivel.
number 42.
Entonces,
in these
eso es
students
algo
here.
que tenemos que
Um,
ver porque ha
These
pasado.
students, we
Eso es
kind
una
of,
preocupación.
we're worried about them, but not as worried. They are still
Los niños
proficient.
que
They just
están
didn't,
en el
they
verde,
went down, like they may
ellos
have been at
niños
mid
también
fifth grade and they went
no
down
nos
to
preocupan
early
tanto
fifth grade or
porque
something like
tal
that.
vez han bajado
And
un
so
poco,
we're worried about those, but this
pero no
lets us
es
see
tan
how students
preocupante.
are doing
Entonces, esto que
individually
tenemos aquí
and
en la
make
pantalla
plans of
nos
action
muestra
for students.
cómo
And
está
so
cada
the
niño en
next
forma
step
individual.
after students, our teachers have done that, is that they create a plan of
El
action
próximo paso, después que los maestros ya han hecho esto, es crear
for
un
each
plan
student.
para cada estudiante.
And so student one on
Por
that
ejemplo,
list
aquí,
corresponded.
el estudiante número
This
1
student needed help with phonics. And so
necesita
our
ayuda
teachers
con
made,
fonética.
during guided reading, they're going to have the letter
Entonces van a
sounds 3 times a
tener
week with iReady
lectura
lessons.
guiada,
They're
van
going
a
to
tener
tutor after
lecciones
school
de
on Monday
iReady,
and
van a
Tuesdays.
tener
They're going to teach
tutores
one-to-one letter
y
correspondence
van a
with those two students
también
who need that
tener
intense intervention.
intervención
Then they have
de
plans
uno a
for
uno.
other students in the group
También hay
here.
planes para otros niños,
They're going to be
como
using
pueden
the
ver
read
en la
alouds to
pantalla,
build
van
vocabulary,
a
continue to
van a
explore
leer
word
en voz
relationships with them.
alta.
So our teachers are identifying what
Los
specifically
maestros
are
están
going to work with
identificando
those
entonces qué
students.
necesita cada
And then
estudiante.
ideally during the parent-teacher conference, your teacher also shared strategies
Idealmente,
that they're
durante
doing
la
with your
reunión de
student
padres
as
y
well. And
maestros,
so
los maestros
what
compartieron
we're
con
going to be
ustedes
doing
estrategias
is
que
we
se están
continue to
usando o que
meet
pueden usar.
on Wednesdays, we have our staff meetings to make plans
Todos los
for that. We're
miércoles
going to be
nosotros
training
nos
teachers
juntamos en esta
and
reunión del
developing
personal
teachers
y
on
seguimos
our
trabajando con estos planes individuales.
not vocabulary, sorry, our reading comprehension. What are some strategies for informational text?
Trabajamos, por ejemplo,
Mr. Hellman and Mr. Gorman were planning
las estrategias
recently,
para
and they were
aprender
talking
más
about
comprensión de
guiding
lectura.
students through the
Hay
test.
maestros que están hablando de
An
cómo
example
guiar
of how
a los
they would
niños,
answer
por
those
ejemplo, en un
questions, so
examen
the
de
students kind of
cómo
see the
cómo
thought
responder
process
una prueba para
behind
que ellos
why
vean el
a
proceso
certain test
del
question would be
examen,
asked this way.
de cómo se
Because they're
hace
also
una
saying that
pregunta
in
específica de un
classroom, the
examen.
students can read nonfiction, but for
Entonces,
some reason on iReady test, they're not having as much success.
En
And
clase
some
ellos
of
están
that could
leyendo
be
texto
that they're not
informativo, pero por
highlighting in the
alguna
same way.
razón,
So the
cuando
kids
toman
aren't
el examen
underlining
iReady,
text or finding
ellos
specific
no
evidence.
tienen el
And so
mismo
Mr.
éxito que
Hellman and
tienen en
Mr.
clase.
Gorman are going to help
Entonces,
me
los
plan something
maestros
for
de
the staff to
quinto grado
walk kids through that
van a
process.
planear algo de cómo guiar a
Similarly,
los niños
we've
paso a
just had a
paso
math
en este
differentiation
proceso.
because we also see that our students who are above grade level in math
También
don't make
estamos
as much
hablando de
growth. And
planes
so we're
específicos
looking at
en
adding enrichment
matemática.
in the
Entonces
day
estamos
for
tratando
math
de ver para los niños que están
classrooms. And so
avanzados de
how do we
cómo
add projects? How
agregar
do we add
proyectos
alternative math lessons for those
o
students?
lecciones alternativas de matemáticas para ese grupo de niños.
So that's the data presentation. Hopefully it was
la
insightful for you
presentación de
guys.
información.
Do
Espero
you have
que
any questions
haya sido
about the data?
interesante para ustedes. No sé si tienen alguna pregunta sobre estos datos.
Not about the data, but I have a question like, so my kid is in the 5th grade, like, and how ready they will be for the 6th grade with the math, they're falling behind, and it might be more pressure on them when they go to 6th grade.
Yeah.
La pregunta es en matemática, un niño de quinto
when we talk
grado,
about specific children, so this is I can talk
ser,
globally about kind of how we support
cómo
kids.
va a afectar esto,
Keep in mind that
cuando
all
ellos
of our
vayan
students are
a
going through a pandemic,
grado.
and so this kind of impacts all of our students
Todos los
similarly, and
niños
that's just
pasaron
we're
a través de la
adjusting,
pandemia, entonces
and that
estamos
adjustment will happen in the middle school as well.
La pandemia afectó a todos los niños.
Specific
estamos
to your child, I think we could set up a meeting to talk about specifically what we could do for them. But as a school, that's what we're working on, is trying to figure out how do we make sure that we get kids as prepared and as ready as possible, looking at the data that we have, what their needs are. But then for your specific kid, it may be something completely unique or different that we want to address as well. So let's talk about that offline rather than
Entonces, si quiere hablar de su hijo en forma específica,
Thank
podemos
you.
hablar separado.
I'll share a success story that has to do with Vern really quick. So my 5th grade, my daughter who's now in 6th grade was in 5th grade, and her older sister had been in advanced math at middle school at Crittenden, and I think she just assumed that she would be too. And when she got her assessment at the end of the year in 5th grade, she realized she was just 3 points or 4 points shy of
Esta es
the
la
cutoff
historia que está
for being in
contando
advanced
sobre
math
su
in middle
hija.
school. And she
Su
came
hija
home
mayor
in tears. She
estaba
was so
en
upset.
matemática avanzada. La
And
segunda
we
niña que
talked to
estaba
Vernon.
aquí
He
en
said,
quinto
follow
no
this
alcanzó
guidelines. And I
a
think it was the
llegar,
Khan
no
Academy
tuvo el
lessons.
puntaje para
And work on it
matemática
over the summer.
avanzada.
And they retest, actually,
Entonces,
they retest their
durante el
students
verano,
in the very
ella
beginning of school
empezó a
before,
trabajar
like
en
the
Khan
first
Academy
couple weeks
durante
of
el
middle
verano.
school.
Una
So she
sugerencia
actually,
de
when middle
Mrs.
school
Taylor.
started, she
Entonces,
was slated
cuando
to be in the
ella
middle
comenzó
class.
la escuela
But she had worked over
middle
the
school,
summer really hard on those
ella
Khan
volvió a
Academy
tomar este
lessons.
examen.
And when they retested her those first
Y
weeks
cuando
of middle
volvió a
school,
tomar ese
she
examen,
tested high enough to be in the middle
ella,
or in the advanced class.
ella
And she has
subió,
been able to maintain
subió el puntaje
high
para poder
scores
estar
throughout the year in that
en la
class and be
matemática
successful because of
avanzada.
the work she did over the summer. So Vern will help you out. He'll take care of you.
El
Thank you
señor
for
Taylor
that.
la va a poder
And I
ayudar.
do want to say that with our iReady assessments for 5th grade, just so
Con las
because there may be
evaluaciones
other
de
5th grade parents
iReady
who don't
para
know
los
this,
niños de
the
quinto
math
grado,
assessment for
la
iReady is used as a
evaluación
placement for
de
students. And so
matemática es la que
oftentimes
se
our 5th
usa
grade students at the end of
para
the year are
colocar
like, this
al
doesn't
niño en
matter
el
and don't
grupo
take
que
it as seriously.
corresponde en la
We
escuela
try to reinforce that with
en
them,
middle school,
but
en
as
sexto
parents, if you
grado.
could just also reinforce with your kid that like, this for them is a high stakes test. And we
Para
don't want
los
to put
niños de
pressure on them.
quinto grado
Wherever
es
they
muy
are is where they are.
importante que
But
tomen este
if they're a
examen
student
de
who kind of
matemáticas
is
seriamente,
smart, but
porque
kind of
eso es
quick
lo que
with the
los va a
pen
poner
in
en
terms
la
of doing
clase
like, I just want to get this over
adecuada de
with, it will
matemáticas
have an
en
impact
la
on
escuela
them.
middle
And so
school.
it's super
Entonces, hablen con
important
los
to
niños para que
take
lo
the
tomen
test seriously,
serio,
as you should take all tests, but
como todos los
take it
exámenes,
seriously.
pero esto es muy importante
Thank
para
you.
ellos.
Thank you. Thank you, Christina, too, for the information.
Any other questions? So thank you for starting with that that one. It's open.
¿Alguna otra
We have about 7
pregunta?
minutes. I'll take any other questions that you have about any other thing as well. Doesn't have to be anything we covered today.
Otra pregunta
Vern, I have a
sobre
quick question,
cualquier
and
cosa.
this can be taken offline later, and I almost don't know if it affects the elementary school, so maybe I should direct it to the middle school, but I have several friends in other districts around the state who they're starting to see that their districts are no longer, how do I even say it? They're no longer having levels of math in their school, like
He
they're
visto,
throwing that out,
tengo
and
muchos
just
amigos en
they
otros
say that
distritos escolares y he visto que
it's mind-boggling to me, and I guess
muchos
some of it is based on a little
están-
bit of research from a woman
están
professor at
dejando de
Stanford,
tener
but
niveles en
it's contrary
matemática.
to a lot of research that I've read in the past. So it's kind of confusing, but anyway, that they're throwing out the different levels of math and saying that they're going to put everyone on the same level.
¿Sí? Entonces
You
están
know,
diciendo,
I haven't
muchos de estos
been to any
distritos
of
están diciendo
the
que no va a haber niveles de
district
matemática en
meetings
middle school,
recently, but I
sino que
haven't
van a
heard
poner a
anything in our
todos los
district. I
niños
hope
en el
that's
mismo
not
nivel.
something that they would do.
No he
I know
escuchado
several
nada
families who are
de
moving
este
out of
distrito,
California because of this.
pero yo
And it would have
quería
huge
saber,
impacts on our district as well. Have you heard
esto
anything
tendría
about
un
our
impacto
district
muy
leading that
grande en nuestro
direction?
distrito.
So
¿Has
I
escuchado
haven't heard
algo
anything,
de que
and there
más o
hasn't
menos
been
va
any
por esa
information shared
dirección?
about moving
No, no he escuchado
towards that.
nada
What I will say is that when
sobre
Common
este
Core
tema.
was implemented or enacted in 2010, there
Cuando en
was
el
a
2010
push
se
statewide
implementó los estándares
to
comunes,
have combined math
sí se
instead
habló
of
de
leveled
combinar
math. And
las
so, or it's
matemáticas
called
en vez de
integrated
tener
math. And so the idea behind that is that you
matemáticas por
don't go,
niveles, sino que se habla de matemática
algebra,
integrada.
geometry, algebra 2, trig, calculus, but each year kids get a piece of all of it.
Entonces
And so it's more
cada año
integrated
los
and
niños tenían parte
more
de
aligned to how
matemática,
people would learn math
un
in
poco
other
más
countries.
alineado a
And so
cómo los
that
niños
was
aprenden
the
matemática
intent
en
of
otros
Common Core.
países. Eso fue
And
como
I
el
think
intento de los estándares
we were
comunes.
slow to transition, and the high school didn't make that transition, so it didn't
Pero
make sense for our middle schools to make that transition.
secundaria
And
no
so
hizo
I
esa
think we're
transición
trying
y
to be
las
in
escuelas
alignment with what
middle
Los
school
Altos and
tampoco
the high schools are
hicieron
doing. And right now they level math. And so to
ese
give our
tipo
kids the
de
best chance at
transición.
being successful in high school, it makes sense for us to level math.
Entonces para
But
nosotros
that is more
tiene
of a
sentido
district
tener
question, and I don't think they've made that
esos
decision or
niveles de
talked to
matemáticas
us
para que
about that
tengan más
specifically.
éxito
Okay.
en la preparatoria, en high school en este momento.
All right. Any other questions?
Will there be state testing this year?
Yes, that's a great question. Thank you for
¿Qué?
that.
¿Va a
So,
haber
we are
examen estatal
scheduled to
este
start
año?
state
Sí.
testing this
Vamos a
year.
comenzar el examen
We
estatal
generally
este año.
test in
Normalmente
late
tenemos
April,
este examen a
May,
fines de
and I
abril
think
o
we're gonna
mayo.
be in that same timeline. So after spring
Más o
break,
menos vamos a
what
estar
typically happens is we start
en ese horario
training the
este año.
students on how to actually interact with the test. It's super important for us because our current fifth graders have never taken the state test.
Por ejemplo,
And so
para
they'll
nosotros es
have
muy
to be trained.
importante
Normally we do a
este
really
examen
intense
porque tenemos
training
los
third
niños de
graders and
quinto
then fourth
nunca
and
han
fifth graders,
tomado
just
el
a
examen
refresher.
estatal.
But this year, third, fourth, and fifth will all need that
Entonces,
training about
tercero,
how the
cuarto y
test works.
quinto van a
It's
recibir
very
la
specific that you have to
capacitación
answer a
para
question
ver
before you can click to the
cómo,
next one, which can be tricky for
cómo
kids.
contestar a
As a kid,
a este
I
examen,
learned
las
that if you
preguntas de
don't
este
know a
examen,
question, skip
porque
it and then come
puede
back
ser
to it
un
later.
poco
And you
difícil,
can't really do
porque
that
es un
with us. And
poco
so some
diferente,
kids
entonces
spend hours on
tenemos
this
que
test because
enseñarle a
it's
los
stuck on
niños
that. So
cómo
we're going to be
contestar.
working with that. So
Oh, okay. So it will be online, right?
it's online. Yes, it's
Este
done
examen
online.
es en línea.
If you would like, I can share with you the
Y si
website where you
quisiera, le
can kind of
puedo
see what it looks
compartir,
like.
si
It's
quisiera, puedo
available
compartir con
publicly
usted
online
la
for
página
samples, and that's what we
para que
practice
vea los
with the students is
ejemplos
how to
del
how to
examen.
navigate this.
Can you please forward that information?
Yeah.
I think that's all the questions I have. Thanks a lot.
Esas son todas las preguntas que tengo. Muchas
So
gracias.
if you give me a quick second, I will actually just put it in the chat right now for you, so that you can see the practice test. And so on the website, there are practice tests and there
En
are
el
training
chat voy a
tests.
poner en
The
este
practice
momento el
tests are
enlace
for the
para
grade level,
el
and
examen
the
de
training tests
práctica.
are to see how the different tools work. And I can share with you the screen in the last 2 minutes so you can kind of see what that looks like.
Okay. Le puedo mostrar ahora en la
If you give me a
pantalla
quick second.
cómo se ve el examen.
So when you go to this website,
Cuando va
you
a
can
esta
click
página,
here where it says student interface. And so this shows the students
elige el
how they
cuadradito
would do it.
verde y
And
aquí
you can
le
log in as a
muestra
guest.
cómo
And
es
so
el
you
examen.
go through and we'll select fifth grade.
Okay. Aquí,
And
por
then so you
ejemplo,
can see
vamos a
here all
tener
the options
el
that you
quinto
have. And
grado
so
y aquí
you can do
están
a
todas
practice
las
test,
diferentes
or you can do the training
opciones
test.
que
And so I'm going to
tiene.
do the training
Entonces
test so
puede
you can
ser
kind of see
práctica o puede ser de
the thing. And so there's
capacitación,
ELA and math. I'll do
entrenamiento.
ELA.
Vamos a
And you
elegir el
just
de
go through
lenguaje.
and you just click select. And then to check the sound, you have to check the sound to make sure because there are visual
Tiene que
or
asegurarse
audio
que el sonido
elements to the test
funcione
as
bien,
well.
porque tenemos
so,
partes donde
The
el audio
intent
es muy
behind the training
importante.
test is not so your kid can practice skills, is really so they get used to the test. And so
Aquí
you'll see
es para
here they
que
have
los
to read.
niños
It
se
scrolls on this side
acostumbren a ver el
independently over
examen,
here.
a ver cómo
And so
es
you
el
have, this
examen.
question has 2 parts. So you
Entonces,
have
por
to answer
ejemplo,
A,
esta
and
pregunta
then
tiene
A
dos partes,
depends on, or
la
sorry,
parte
part B
A y la
depends on
parte
A.
B.
So if I were to just say answer A, but I skip B, what you'll see, what your kid will get, it should say that they can't answer it, but I'll go on and you'll see here, what is the most likely reason an author final, and they have to pick 2 choices. So these
Aquí
are one of
estamos
the things
viendo
that's
entonces el
tricky
ejemplo
because
de
you can't
preguntas.
just pick one. You're supposed to, the most likely, it says
Por
pick 2
ejemplo,
choices.
aquí dice
Often our kids will
elegir
pick
dos
one, or they don't
opciones.
read carefully,
Muchas
or they
veces los
just
niños
highlight
no
them
leen
all. So they have to be careful
cuidadosamente
about what they're
y
doing.
eligen
And so
una o
you'll see
eligen
here,
todas. Y aquí dice
there are
claramente
some things
elegir
on there
dos.
like zooming out and zooming in that we
Entonces,
want the
hay
kids to be able to practice with.
algunas
And then
cosas
there's a
que
line
ellos
reader
pueden
where they can
practicar.
click and it
Por ejemplo, los
highlights the
botones de
lines for them.
arriba para agrandar
And so
el
there are
texto
these different
o
features that
achicar
we
el
want to
texto.
train the
Entonces,
students on.
hay varias
And then,
cosas que nosotros
let me
queremos que los
zoom
niños
out.
aprendan.
Zoom out. And so I forgot what it says right here. The student wants to revise this test, read the draft of the opinion article and complete the test. It says, click on the sentence in the draft that's in the wrong place. And so the kids have to click on the one sentence that they have. And so here you can see I've highlighted them all.
Aquí se está
But it's the
revisando
one
entonces una
sentence
de las
that is in the
preguntas del
wrong place. And
examen.
that's difficult for kids who haven't had this practice doing that, right? And so in class, we don't necessarily ask, that's not a
Se está
natural thing to
mostrando
ask students to
aquí
do,
el
is to
examen se está
click or
mostrando
circle that
porque
one
es
thing that doesn't
difícil.
belong. When we ask kids to write, we just ask them to write and
Cuando
they edit and revise
nosotros,
their
por
own work,
ejemplo, en
but it's
clase
rare that
le
they
pedimos a
edit
los niños
other
que
people's work. And so that's
ellos
difficult for
escriban,
kids.
ellos
And
editan
so we
su
have to
propia
train them that
escritura,
that's something that they're
pero
going
en
to be
este
doing.
caso están
And then
editando
you
la
just go
escritura de
through and
otra
this are
persona.
select 2.
Entonces, eso es difícil para niños.
So again, you can go through with your
Entonces puede
child,
revisar este examen con su
or you
hijo.
can go through yourself. As a school, we're going to go through
En
with
la
the kids.
escuela
So I wouldn't
nosotros
spend
vamos a
so much time at
revisarlo con
home
los niños.
with your
No
child
pasaría
doing it.
mucho tiempo en la
But for your
casa con
own
los niños para
purposes,
que
just
lo
review
hagan,
it. You can look through it.
pero usted como padre lo puede revisar
Okay.
para ver lo que se le está pidiendo a cada niño.
All right. Any other questions before we go?
¿Alguna otra pregunta?
All right. I hope you guys have a nice Friday. I'll see you
Muchas
guys at
gracias.
pickup.
Que tengan un buen día viernes.
Bye.